What a moment for our city. What is your main message for the people of LA right now?
Well, my main message is that for those of you that want to exercise your First Amendment right, you should do that. But it has to be done peacefully. Yeah. What is happening on the streets right now is completely unacceptable, and basically people will be arrested and prosecuted. So to get the very important point across, that many people in the city are in terrible fear right now. We don't know whether there's going to be raids tomorrow, where they would take place, where families would be separated. So I understand that. But the violence on the street is not acceptable.
How do we make the violence stop? Because so often we've seen these same people that are part of Antifa, that are anarchists, that come, that get in the no matter what the issue is, it's a lot of the same people.
Right.
How do we arrest them more effectively and prosecute them more effectively so they don't keep showing up over and over again?
Well, I'll tell you, one of the things that really needs to happen right now is that all of the people that were detained on Friday, the families have no idea where their relatives are. You know, we know that a number of people have been transported to Adelanto, but the problem is that there has been absolutely no contact. They don't know if now they've been transported out of the country. We need to take that away so that people will know where their relatives are. I think that will take a lot of the anger and the fear and the resentment away when people are in contact. And then I think that, you know, when you know there's people that do this at every protest, what is typical, of course, it's after the protest is over. The people in this city, as you know, have a well-established immigrant rights movement that is that is peaceful, that is organized.
And so, but those anarchists and the rest of them
they're not a part of that. And basically, they're going to be held to the full extent of the law. And I think what people don't realize is just because they're not arrested today, that does not mean they won't be arrested in the coming weeks.
I mean, but because right now there is a sense that things aren't totally under control. You look at burning cars, you look at the freeway shut down. How do we get it under control?
And that is what happens when you unnecessarily send troops in that were not needed.
But a lot of those spots are not where the troops are at.
No. But the point is that it's created a sense of rage and resentment and anger in our city that we did not need. And so that fear that people feel citywide, I mean, you know, our population here, people who might have been subject to those raids, has a rippling effect. Maybe it was a father that was arrested, maybe it was a mother who worked in a home on another side of town. And now she's not going to go to work because she doesn't know where her husband is.
How should ICE carry out criminal deportations when they have a court order? What do you think is the most effective way to do that?
Let me just tell you, you remember when the administration started, they talked about violent drug traffickers, you know, people who were already convicted of terrible crimes. Now, how does that work when you go to a workplace? When you are chasing people through the parking lot at Home Depots? So what the administration was doing originally and what their goals were have shifted. That also creates a lot of terrified people because we don't know where the needle is.
Tom Holman is here.
Yes,
I spoke to him. What'd you say to him? How did that conversation go?
Well, when I spoke to him, I was trying to prevent the deployment of the National Guard. I knew that the order had already been given to the governor, but I was trying to assure him that the National Guard was not needed here. And if the National Guard came, it was going to be provocative. And the last thing we needed to do was to provoke people.
Lastly, there's a lot of people that are scared tonight.
Yes.
Wondering whether they should send their kids to school, wonder they should go to work.
Exactly.
What do you say to them?
Well, my message to them is that I'm the mayor for Los Angeles, and that's all Angelenos, regardless of who they are, when they got here, or where they came from. But just your description of it was unnecessary. So why did we need to have ICE raids here? The president is trying to meet a goal, but what does that have to do with people who are at a workplace?
How does this end?
Well, you know, I'm hoping it's going to end with the governor's recommendation that the order to take over the National Guard and federalize the National Guard returns the power back to where it should be, which is the governor's desk.
Mayor, thank you so much. Appreciate you speaking out.